Hi, I want to share with you my memories of 9/11. On September 11, 2001, I was living in Chicago. I was a special education teacher and I was teaching at a private school. I had just gotten all my kids settled in and getting ready to teach when the administrative assistant came by my room and told my assistant and I that two planes had hit the World Trade Center. One had hit the Pentagon and another one had crashed in Pennsylvania. We didn't find out about all these things until after everything happened because, well, Chicago is an hour behind New York, and getting my students settled in takes quite a bit of time because they were severe and profound, so they needed to be positioned and toileted and all that. Well, when she left, my assistant and I looked at each other and we were like, what? So I asked my assistant to go to the lounge and watch TV for a few minutes and then come back and tell me what was going on. Well, she did. She came back a few minutes later and she had an absolute look of horror on her face. So I said, what's going on? And she said, you need to go watch this. So I went to the lounge and there were already a bunch of people gathered around the TV. I watched for a few minutes and I saw the footage of the second plane hitting the South Tower and everybody yelling, oh my God, when that happened. And after a few minutes, I went back to my classroom and I said to my assistant, after what I just saw, I really don't feel like teaching today. Let's just keep the kids comfortable and feed them and everything like that. So that's what we did. Lunchtime rolled around and I went to the lounge again to watch TV. I was also a little concerned that there might be a plane heading towards Chicago because Sears Tower and John Hancock Building are there and they were fairly large targets. Well, anyway, I was watching the local news and they were showing footage of the loop emptying out. Everybody ran out of downtown Chicago when the news hit. And all the transit companies used everything they could to get everybody out of downtown as quickly as possible. I also tried to make some calls to my family in New York, but I couldn't get through, obviously. So that made me rather worried. Anyway, the day ended and I was driving home and I had basically every road to myself. I had the Stevenson Expressway and Lakeshore Drive all to myself. Drove through downtown Chicago. It was deserted. And when I got up to my neighborhood, the main drag through there was deserted as well. Everything was closed. I got home and parked my car, and I saw my letter carrier there. And I said to him, I'm surprised to see you after what just happened today. And he said, I'm not going to let that stop me. Looking back, that was probably the most normal thing I heard the entire day. So I went up to my apartment, turned the TV on, turned on my computer, and just kept watching what had been going on. By then, everything had pretty much played out, and they were showing footage of the planes hitting the towers over and over again, and showing footage from the Pentagon and stuff from Pennsylvania. And basically, that was what was happening. I didn't want to watch it, but I was kind of like a moth to a flame. It's one of those things you don't want to see it, but yet you're kind of attracted to it. Also, they were starting to talk about the fact that Osama bin Laden may have been part of it. At that point, it was just speculation, but later on we found out he was the mastermind. Anyway, finally, a little later, I was able to get through to my family in New York, and I was able to account for everybody. That evening, I went to services at my synagogue just because I felt the need to pray. And we said some extra prayers in memory of the victims. And when I came home, I was just totally exhausted from everything that had gone on that day. I went to bed and my thought was, please let this have just been a nightmare and I'll wake up tomorrow morning and it was all just a bad dream. Well, of course, that didn't happen. Here we are 23 years later, And it seems like some people would rather sweep the memories of September 11th, 2001 under the rug. A lot of schools won't teach it because they're afraid it might offend Muslims. Also, they don't teach it because they don't want to scare children. Well, here's the thing. If history offends you or it scares you, do what you can to make sure it doesn't happen again. And in that respect, I feel very strongly that it should still be taught. And I commend those teachers who still do. Anyway, those are my memories of 9/11. This is in memory of my cousin Lonnie J. Stone, who died in the North Tower. Thank you for watching.